Hello, and welcome to Building Your T-Shirt Empire. My name is Cole, and we're trying a new thing where me and Gavin are going to be co-hosting. But he already has an existing podcast, so go ahead and do your intro.
Hey, this is Gavin, T-Shirt Business Podcast, and also the founder of SEPs. I'm excited to do this, Cole.
I think it's gonna be fun. It might actually make me record podcasts again.
I think it's going to help both of us be more consistent
Yeah.
because this content thing is a thing that you have to do, right? As a small business owner.
You think it'll stick around? I don't know. I was thinking of going back and like buying some cable news ads. Maybe go on
I,
I don't know, CNN ads. I think they sell. Somebody's buying all those pharmaceuticals.
I think it'll work because I think we like to just hear each other talk.
Yeah.
So, so even if
Well,
it's just us, right?
yeah, I mean, the whole idea was just me sitting in the car for an hour and a half with you the other day where we were just talking on the phone. And I was like, maybe there's something here. So tell
I,
me the topic for the day. What are we going to actually talk about that's t-shirt related?
Yeah, so I think today I've been on the road a lot the past couple of years, right?
Yeah.
Just going to trade shows, talking to other screen printers. And one thing I'm feeling right now, a lot of screen printers are, I don't know, how do you say, their nerves are kind of up, right? When it comes to DTF and screen printing and
Hmm.
digital, because I see a lot of screen printers right now, they are adapting, they're adding DTF to their whole thing of screen printing. From what I'm hearing, some screen printers are actually afraid of DTF because they feel like it may just take over their shop or that DTF may take over the industry and then make screen printing like irrelevant.
I mean, they should be. I'm all over the subreddit for screen printing.
Mhm.
And so I'm always seeing these guys and they're showing bad work on a manual that they bought either used or they spent too much from Ryonet, whatever they did, where it's like just this random like little setup and they're trying to cure it with like a heat gun or they're doing it with like only a flash and they're only knocking out 30 pieces. And then they could have absolutely just bought a super color and heat pressed it on and the customer would have liked it more. And not only that,
Mhm.
that transfer could have been completely full color. It would have washed perfectly fine. And they would have only invested a single heat press. Now, if you're going to tell me that I'm going to knock out 3,000 units with a heat press, then there's no way. Like there's absolutely a space for mass screen printing. And even just
Yeah.
there's arguments to be made for like discharge and water base and why it feels great. But if you're on the small scale or if you're like in a garage and you're just knocking out 30 to 50 pieces, there's
Yeah.
almost no reason to screen print on that level.
When I hear that, I think of a few things because when I started, DTF wasn't around. I mean, there
Yeah.
was these,
Terrible
you
DTG
had
back then.
Yeah, it was DTG. It was the vinyl stuff, and I didn't like vinyl at all. DTG at the time, I had to make a decision: should I invest DTG or invest in screen printing? I'm a screen printer. I feel what they're saying. I actually want to protect screen printing. I right. I actually want to tell them no. Don't be afraid of DTF. But also, I'm a businessman, and I see you could see the industry evolving, right?
Hmm.
So people are gonna want efficiency. People are gonna want stuff that's quick, and people are gonna want stuff that's like consistent. And DTF offers that, man.
I mean, yeah, and that's the thing is it when DTF fails at quickness, that's when screen printing makes sense again. So setting up a three color job and knocking out 25 shirts, you can totally argue to just do a DTF. But if I'm going to do, even 100 shirts, setting up two screens with our little tri-lock is almost trivial as far as how fast we can do it. And then on top of that, we're printing 500 an hour print speed. But if I load a single transfer, bring it down, have it set down for like what, 15, 20 seconds. Then
Mhm.
if I have to do a cold peel, I wait for a cold peel. And then I finally get to like reveal my one single print. It just doesn't compete speed wise to an auto.
Yeah, it
On a
doesn't.
manual, yeah. I mean, the manual, especially when you don't know how to burn your screens, when you're not doing a lot of things in a real shop with real equipment, it becomes a real headache. Go switch over to DTF. If I was starting today with 1,000 square feet, I would be a DTF shop and I would just, all I'd care about is getting clients and I'd outsource to big shops for any big run. So if I land
Or
the
like
high
big
school,
orders.
I just outsource only the high school job. Everything, all the small stuff, DTF it.
Does it now make manual screen printing? Is that not even a thing or not even going to be a thing going forward? Because like you said, manual screen printing takes so much more time and your output is not that much more.
And you have serious quality control problems. Like if you want to be the manual screen printer that cares, then you can be great. I know that there's some guys like, who was it? Sunday Print Co. I think they stayed manual for like 8 years straight. So deluxe screen printing, they stayed manual for a long time. And they kept treating it as like an artisan thing. And
Yeah.
both of them, when I saw them go auto, they were like, oh, like we were just saying that. Like our quality actually improved. When you try care, you're not a machine, and setting the angle properly and setting the pressure properly on an auto,
Yeah.
it's just now the print is perfect. You can't get tired. You can't worry about going to lunch. You can't whatever.
Yeah.
It just keeps doing the exact same movement. So I kind of feel like everyone who's successful decides to start leaving manual presses anyway. And so you can kind of argue this craftsman artisan kind of thing, but real screen printing is just mass production of an image. It's not really about craftsmanship. If it was about craftsmanship, we would be all over Etsy, and we're not. Like the best guys are doing stuff for like businesses. They're not doing things that are handy.
Yeah, I get it. Like, because a lot of folks that get into screen printing, they get in screen printing because they probably was doing something artsy to
Yeah,
begin with.
totally.
Something creative, musician, even just an arts guy, like painting or something like that. So I understand wanting to protect the pureness or the purity of that, right? I don't know. Is that a marketable thing? Like, do your customer care about that?
If you want to do that as a marketable thing, you need to make an entire brand around it.
Yeah.
So you're making a brand, your streetwear brand is extremely complicated. You're doing stuff that people don't see. You're doing things that are a pain in the ass. You're playing with cool inks. You're
Yeah.
doing things that are highly customized. And then people are paying you directly $90 for, a hoodie that might have only the blank might have cost you 19-20 bucks, but you've added $70 worth of value because like no one's doing the pain in the ass work that you're doing to make it a high quality like
Yeah.
product. If you think of it the way my business runs, which is just you guys need some crap and we're going to make the crap and the crap won't look like crap. If you're doing that business, then I have to print for $2 a hit or whatever it is for to pay based on the volume. So like I don't even want to do your artisan screen printing. I can do different ink types and stuff, but I don't want things to be artsy or experimental. And I don't think
Yeah.
any big shop would ever call themselves artists because you don't want someone being creative. You want someone exactly matching the work order. That's what you
Yeah.
want. I think all the art is up front, right? Like if you are an artist and you want to create an awesome design, you don't need the
Yeah.
screen printer himself changing the art on the press
Yeah.
because he's got opinions too. It's not about opinions. At that point, you're matching Pantones, you're locking in the art, you're making sure that all the halftones washed out like properly in the big old sink. Like
Yeah.
it's not about being an artist once it's actually being mass produced.
I did see there is a guy or kid I see on Instagram. He does some real cool stuff, like
Yeah.
using a manual. I'm not sure if you know of Unfinished Legacy. Have you seen that pop up on your Instagram?
I don't know, maybe. My Instagram's a blur of t-shirt people.
Yeah, so I see because he does like weird placement on the shirt. He does them really big. Like he burns and he literally take the screen and lays it on top of the shirt. Then that to me feels artsy and it
Right.
feels like you get that one-off type of design because every shirt is gonna have the print is gonna land a little bit different. So that and he's doing well with that because he's got brands that's reaching out to him. He's got major player that's reaching out to him just because he's built the following. And that case, I think it makes a whole lot of sense not to even touch an auto, right? Because then you would lose that thing that you just built.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely. Like that's exactly how you'd have to do the artisan version of it. But you also wonder what his potential, cap is. I mean, theoretically, he could land some crazy client and he could have like his moment where he has a collab with Gucci or something. He could have that moment. But barring that kind of moment, what is his cap compared to a guy with an auto and a person that helps him with art and a kid that helps catch him at the end of the dryer and he just lands a few hundred units every week no matter what? Like, what is your cap for growth with those two paths?
Yeah.
One of them is dope though. And he probably is more satisfied doing that than he is the local high school like cheerleadership. But it is just one of those things like where is the payoff? Like, and if you hustle really hard for something for 8 years, and you just always knew you couldn't get past X amount of dollars. You have to,
Yeah.
like, do you want to live at that lifestyle level for the rest of your life? Because it might just be limited.
So what I'm hearing, I think it comes down, first of all, you have to be clear what you like. I think you have to be clear that this is a business making thing. This t-shirt
Yeah.
printing, this. So if that's the angle, be honest with yourself. It is a t-shirt. It is a business making thing. I want to make money from it. And that part is more valuable to me than say the arts part. Than if it is, because I think most people it is more valuable to you for you to be able to, live your life through making t-shirt, right?
Right.
Then if that's the case, then you want to, what is the best way to do that? Like, and the best way to do that is mass produce, in my opinion, using an auto and then embracing DTF that's here right now. Like where your business, if you just started out, like Cole say, I would honestly, if I just started out right now with knowing what I know now, I'm going the same route he said. I'm getting a heat press. I am going as lean as possible and using a vendor to get me my transfers. Even though I could get the machine, I probably would just get me a vendor that could get me the transfers, just because I wouldn't want to complicate the thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm amazed by how cheap the machines are. One of the guys from Grimco, do you know them? They're like a supply company. Anyway,
I've seen those popped up recently.
I think Grimco has like 6 warehouses. They're pretty big nationally. But he came by and he was showing me the new machine. But it's a 20-inch wide film, and it's only like 10 grand or very close to 10 grand, maybe 11 grand. And I was like, man, DTG, they were trying to make us buy them for $25,000, $30,000 when they were new. They were way slower. They didn't have any of the flexibility with the different fabric types. And this thing, I mean, what's a payment on 10 grand? $300 a month or something if you're paying it on a low payment. So it's kind of amazing how low the bar is for entry. And it would mean that you can take those really high value, like rush jobs. It's one thing to say that I'll get your shit done in a week and a half, but a lot of local jobs are people saying, I want it right now. And I need it in 48 hours. And we've had people walk in who are literally like going on a cruise, which you would think is a completely pointless job for us. But they come in and they pay $33 a shirt.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, I'm going to buy this $2.50 plank. I'm going to charge this lady $31 in profit. It's like, I guess I just made 300 something dollars in what, like 25 minutes of printing?
Yeah.
And it's just those kind of jobs you're not going to do if you're outsourcing to a guy who has to make you transfers. They have their own turnaround. And then you're at the mercy of UPS. Then it finally comes in. And that's a lot of local business. Like those moments where you feel like, oh, I just made my week. It might be 60 pieces that the local business realizes that like some other shop didn't get done and they need it for the convention or whatever. And you have those rush moments where if you outsource, you'd have to say no to every single one of them.
When I ran my shop, I started noticing a pattern. In the beginning, I didn't catch this, but over time, it became a pattern. Like if you are in a big city, you're gonna see this. Like because in a big city, there's always something happening in the weekend, all the time. There's an event, there's a party, there's a festival, there's something, and somebody messed up, right? Or they just dragged their feet.
Like it's amazing how many times another shop repacks the boxes that they ended up not getting done on time. And then someone drives it over to us because we say we can actually print 200 shirts. It happens all the time.
So in a city, you're just going to find that people just wait till the last minute to get job done. Sometime another shop dropped the ball. There's a lot of event going on. They may have really a lot of time is poor planning on their side because it might have been like a business. Joe should have took care of it, but Joe didn't. Now Sarah has to go run around try to figure things out. So you get a lot of those, and like festivals and events and parties are all going on. So those like DTFs are perfect for that. Like perfect if you are. When we caught on to that, we literally created a blog post just for that.
Yeah.
Because we started noticing, hey, okay, it's Friday. You got an event this weekend? That was literally the blog post.
Yeah. Same day rush.
So I worked it out with my supplier. I had a local supplier and I pretty much had them on speed dial just in case, hey, I got this order coming in. I'm going to just email you the thing and I'm going to send a driver to go pick it up. As soon as I get like the feeling that I'm going to close the sale, And a couple of times where I actually bite the bullet, where I felt the order was gonna come through. I'm gathering all the stuff, and this is for a big rapper. And it was a Rolling Loud that came over in the city, like this
Oh
big
yeah,
festival.
big event.
Uh yeah, and then they pulled out at the last second, and I had to I had to sit on like 200 black t-shirts, but I could use those for another order.
We've found that like you get bossed around the most by like marketing companies because the
Mm,
marketing companies are underneath someone else. That other person is barking orders at them. Then the marketing company
mhm.
is going to mark up any price you give them by like 40%. So then it goes back to the customer after you've talked for like 3, 4 hours, even trying to organize it. And the customer's like, I'm not paying $17. And it's like, oh, I didn't charge $17. Your stupid marketing company did. If you had just called
Exactly.
me, you could have paid a real price. But like the marketing companies have this thing where they just kind of have like certain businesses and stuff cornered, and you're at the mercy of this middleman who is constantly trying to like nickel and dime the suppliers, but also force them
Yeah.
to work hard. And you're just kind of like, this is it's like a terrible place to be because you know that the end customer is just paying way too much. Yeah, those rush jobs though, like we'll charge like $250 on top of basically any order if it's like a 24-hour rush. Even if people want to do a tiny run, it's kind of like take it or leave it. We always call it overtime, even though it's like maybe an hour of extra overtime, but it's just kind of
Yeah,
it's this or nothing. Like pretty much every shop's gonna have a rush fee.
it makes sense. So how about DTG? What are you doing now in terms of DTG? Are you still doing DTG in your shop?
Yeah, so we own two Epsons. We have an F2000 and an F2100, and that's how we do DTF. DTF.
Mm,
So if it's like small, we'll make like a sheet and gang up all the art and DTF it. Because it's just DTG backwards. That's all it is. Like you just do CMYK and then white and glue. And then if it happens to be something where it's like a cotton garment and it makes sense to DTG it, then we'll actually pre-treat and do it. But I'm getting like a nicer finished product out of doing the DTF process than I am pre-treating and printing straight onto fabric. It's the same machine, it's the same ink, but there's something about that glue layer that just kind of, and then that heat press hit, you end up with just, I don't know, something that's more opaque. So we're getting great results on pretty much any fabric DTFing with our own machines, and we're not having to mess with pre-treat, which all my guys complained about pre-treat anyway. They hated having the pre-treat machine on, and they'd talk about how like it smelled or they were too close to it or it made the ground sticky. Like no matter what pre-treat machine we had, there was something to complain about. We do it if it makes sense, but it almost never makes sense anymore because kind of anything under like 50 pieces, we're considering it doing it digitally, and then anything over 50 pieces, we're probably screen printing. And so most jobs, unless it's a really specific like cotton shirt, we're just doing DTF transfers because we've got 16 by 20-inch sheets. So even a largish design, we might be able
yeah.
to put 4 or 5 of them on one sheet. So it all we're doing is sending it through the printer for that ganged up sheet, as opposed to us loading one shirt, only printing that design, loading another shirt, only printing that design. So it's almost always saving us time.
DTG, DTFs, screen printing. So what's your verdict? Like, I think based on what I'm hearing, DTG is out of the game now.
It's not if you want to do print on demand and you have a giant print farm and you print for Fanatics and you've got
Mm,
print on demand and web to print. And in that case, it's great to have a whole bunch of pre treated shirts that have either been done in a giant pile because you have someone on staff doing it, or you're buying one of those ones from like, I know Hanes started doing it where the fabric itself is just pre treated before they sew it. So in those kind of situations, for on demand printing, there's definitely an argument for DTG. But if you're taking random orders, and even if they're in dozens or whatever, DTF can normally save you a bit of time. Yeah, I mean, if I was buying something right now, it would be a DTF.
So DTF couldn't work for on-demand printing, like the website management type of printing.
I mean, if every design is different, then you'd have to either gang up a ton of orders to
Mm,
optimize your film, or you'd waste film because you print only the film you need for only the one shirt. And the way we do it, basically, the machines are just the way we do it, but they're all inline. So we print CMYK, we print a white layer on top of that, straight onto the film. Then we apply the glue with a shaker. Then it goes down. We actually put it down our conveyor belt to cure it, and then it comes out and gets heat pressed. So if you're doing that one film at a time, That's slower than just loading the shirt and printing one shirt at a time.
Got
But
it.
if I'm doing 25 trucker hats and I gang up 25 little logos on one sheet, now I've saved time by switching to DTF.
Screen printing still around. So should screen printers be scared for screen printing? Is that gonna, what's your screen printer? You got what, 3 autos? No?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you could run a manual shop successfully. Screen printing has a lot of labor and on a manual, you're gonna find people trying to pay you $4 a print or something. So even on 100 shirts on a manual, you're taking a lot of effort, but you're making not much money.
Yeah.
I don't think a manual has much point. I would potentially not buy a manual ever. If I was
All
starting
right.
from scratch, I would get a DTF, land a few $100,000 in sales, outsource everything I couldn't handle with the DTF and outsource like the embroidery, and then only get an auto because it's like, hey, this is crazy. I paid this printer 90 grand this year. I could have just picked up a small auto. Now I
Yeah.
actually have an excuse. The problem with manual screen printing, if you're alone, you separate the art for 20, 30 minutes because you're not that fast at it. Then you watch your
Mhm.
printer spit out the films for like 10, 15 minutes because your printer's slow. Then you go and coat the screen. Then you wait for it to dry for an hour. Then you finally burn it. Then once you rinse it out, you get to watch the water dry. Then you tape it up. Then you click it in. So, like, if you're a consistent shop with everyone having different roles, you can have
Yeah.
a mindset that a job's only going to take 40 minutes to run. It didn't take 40 minutes to run, though. It's just that you scheduled it and you were ahead of the order. In reality, there's like, you can have like 2.5, 3 hours of problems if you literally start a job completely from scratch with an empty
Yeah.
screen all the way to it being finished. And if you don't have people in roles and you're just the one standing there waiting for the screen to dry, you can feel like you've wasted your whole day on one order. Figuring out those efficiencies is the only way that screen printing makes sense. And if you're a guy or a guy who pays a high schooler twice a week, it's just not efficient and you don't feel like you're making money at all.
Yeah. He was describing me about 7 years ago.
Yeah, I'm describing myself. I would print it in the morning by myself because I had no idea how to get, like I would be on the press. So that means I can't go make the screens. And I forgot to clean the screens the other day because I snapped and decided I didn't want to. So that means now I have to scrub the screens before I can get them dry to then coat them. Like it's a nightmare. If there aren't separated rolls, screen printing is extremely slow and there's way too many steps compared to just
Yep.
pressing print on something that may actually have a better finished product than what you're going to do manually when you're tired.
So the verdict is this.
Never screen print.
Uh, no, definitely screen print, but you have to know. I think it all start with what you want. A lot of us, it is a business. You got to make money and you got to optimize for making money, right?
Yeah.
So what piece of equipment will do that? So in the beginning, it's probably going to be the quickest way to money is DTF right now.
Mm-hmm.
Then as you start to grow, then if you need bulk, DTF is not going to handle that, at least not right now, or in a way where you can optimize for making money. And then I think once you have a solid, not even a solid brand, but like people know who you are and you can get those big orders, then it makes sense to get like an auto, then to go full production, like add a team, put all the different layers,
Yeah.
art department, dark room, all of the things that's required for screen printing.
I mean, even that depends though. Like if you're amazing at sales, trying to figure out how to manage that team might be a huge waste of your time. And trying to have that overhead, like let's say you do $250,000 from June to November and you think you're killing it, you still have to cover the overhead all the months that you don't kill it. So
Mm-hmm.
if somebody already has this giant infrastructure staring at you in the face and they give you a price sheet that you're still going to clear the right amount of money, there's no reason why you can't just manage jobs essentially. I was just talking about how the marketing companies are the worst, but they all make a lot of money. Like if you're really good at sales, there's no reason to decide that you have to learn how to burn the perfect like 55 LPI halftone dot to get the separations. Like it might just be a huge waste of your time. It's a lot of fun and it's a great hobby. You should get a 4-color press, put it in your garage. Tell your aunt that you'll do her t-shirts for the elementary school. You're ready to go.
Thank you for tuning in.
Yep.
Appreciate you. See you in the next episode.
All right, we did it.
I guess we got to get a better ending, or we got to signal ourselves when we want to end it.
I think
So,
I think my endings always just kind of ended super abruptly.
okay, cool.
You're the one with structure.